Hi, my name is Jake Gardner, and I'll be covering some of my key takeaways from fraud analytics in the audit. Through the AS2401 readings on the consideration of fraud in the financial statement audit, I have several key takeaways that I want to share. First of all, I remember that auditors must be independent of their client and use professional skepticism at all times. Also, auditors must consider the risk of material misstatement, whether due to fraud or error. There are two main types of fraud: financial statement fraud, in which information on the financial statements is misleading, and there's misappropriation of assets, which is often the result of theft or embezzlement. Also, auditors are required to have a fraud brainstorming session, which I'll talk about in a second. And auditors must document fraud and communicate indications of fraud to those charged with governance in a timely manner. I also learned about the fraud brainstorming session in depth through the use of a simulated brainstorming session and through in-class lectures. During the fraud brainstorming session, auditors must assess the risk of fraud, consider who might have committed the fraud, what types of fraud could have been committed within an organization, and what impacts could potential fraud have on the financial statements. Another key takeaway from this class was learning about the use of fraud specialists. When an auditor believes areas of high risk require a specialist, they should choose a specialist who is independent and competent. Then they should evaluate the specialist's findings and work closely with the fraud specialists throughout the investigation. I also remember learning about analytical tools through some of the readings from the Journal of Accountancy and the guest speaker's lecture. These helped me learn more about some of the analytical tools that were used during the audit process. For example, we learned about how Excel can be used for recalculation, assessing the impact of misstatements, and identifying suspicious journal entries. Finally, the fraud investigation case on QHT Games was a large part of this class, and I have several key takeaways that I want to share. It was important for my team to consider factors such as qualitative and quantitative materiality in assessing fraud, not just quantitative materiality. I learned that auditors should consider fraud incentives, for example, increasing bonus amounts. Also, auditors should consider the adequacy of investigations, independence and competence of those performing the investigations, the potential impact of fraud, and the adequacy of communication during the process. Those are some of my key takeaways from fraud analytics in the audit, and that is all.